On today's show, I have my friend and frequent guest Mackenzie on the show, and we talk about Biden's final days in office, including the pardons, the unprecedented pardons that he gave, and what kind of precedent will that set for future presidents. It's hard to say those two words back to back without sounding the same. And then we talk about Trump's first few days in office. What do we think so far? And then we talk about what do we think's coming in the future? Not trying to predict it, but saying, what are the things we want out of this administration? What are the things that we think might happen? What do we think the potential pitfalls of Trump are? And we haven't talked in a while because it's been very cold in Oklahoma. So here's the disclaimer. You probably noticed this is a long podcast. We talked for almost 2 hours, and I apologize for that if that's too long. I never know. So let me know if that's too long. Let me know if you want them shorter. I wanted to leave it in there. I could have trimmed it down, but it was a good conversation. We haven't had a chance to talk because it's been cold. We normally pass each other in the neighborhood and hang out and talk politics for a while. It's like 5 degrees outside in Oklahoma. So we have no interest in standing outside and talking about politics, even though the last few weeks have been, there's a lot going on, right? So apologies for that. One other thing, the show notes at the bottom, you can pull those up on your phone or whatever you're listening on, and I'm going to have chapter markers for all the things we talk about. So feel free to just jump to the thing you want to hear us talk about if you don't want to listen to the whole hour and 50 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now so that you can hear me and Mackenzie talking. Welcome to The Homeless Conservative, a show about principled politics for exhausted citizens. I'm your host, Blake Fisher. I'm a political junkie so that you don't necessarily have to be, and so is my guest, Mackenzie. She's also a political junkie so that you don't have to be. Glad to have you back, always.
Glad to be back.
So we have not talked about a lot of things because, you know, last week's episode, I did kind of about Biden a little bit, but you know, that was Thursday, and he did a whole bunch of crazy stuff after Thursday. So I think it's worth, I realize most people are like, he's gone, you know, we don't need to talk about it anymore. But I think a few of the things he did were so consequential that they're going to have ripple effects for a really long time. So the first and most obvious thing would be the pardons.
The pardons, yes.
So, well, I guess first of all, we should also catch people up because the last time we heard from you on the microphone, you were, you know, you've evolved. Let's say that. You were on the Trump train, then you were off the Trump train,
and then you were DeSantis train.
Then you kind of slowly climb back on the train.
And I'm fully back on.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, fully back on. I mean, I will, like, I'm not full on MAGA where, like, I won't criticize him.
Right, because you're not insane.
No, I'm not insane, but loving everything he's doing, rooting for him, and, like, I just can't help but love it. Okay,
that's fine. So let's start with, you know, that you've a little different than maybe not the last time you were on because it was in September, but maybe before that. So it evolved. That's fine. People can evolve politically. That's totally fine. Okay, so Biden pardons. What are your thoughts on both sets of them? Because I kind of think there's two sets. Well, there's kind of really three sets. There's the normal pardons that presidents do, which have kind of gotten not talked about very much. I mean, he did pardon like a guy that killed an FBI agent.
Yes.
And like that's gotten almost no coverage because the other ones were so much crazier than that one. And that would normally
a guy who killed a police officer.
Right.
Commuted a sentence.
Yeah. There's those normal ones that presidents do that normally get some buzz. And we haven't even really talked about those because frankly, I don't know many of the details of them other than I know he's pardoned some people that were guilty of murder. So it's we're not talking about, we'll see the number that's like he pardoned 8,000 people. I know like 6,000 of those were marijuana offenses that, you know, it's no longer illegal in those states and stuff. And so that makes sense to me. I'm fine for saying, hey, something that we used to say was illegal and now we say isn't, and you're serving a sentence and we feel like that's not right. Like that's one kind of pardon that I'm like, yes, that's why, I think that's why the founders thought the president should have this power was for like justice gone awry is the right way. But we're not talking about those because those are not the crazy ones. The crazy ones are he pardons his entire family basically.
Yep.
His
minus
brother,
his wife.
Yeah, minus his and his kids. But I mean, he already had pardoned Hunter. But I guess the other ones haven't done it. But here's the thing: it's not just that he pardoned his kids; it's that or his family, it's that he pardoned them for crimes that have not been committed or accused of even, which is different than, I did a little bit of diving into this. I cannot find a historic precedent for that. Richard Nixon was the one people talked about a little bit, but I think everyone knew the crimes that he was being pardoned for. Yeah, he had not been indicted on any of them. He was being impeached, possibly, but this is totally different. So there's the family stuff. So let's start with that.
Well, I think a lot of people in his defense would say like, well, it's because of like the retribution that Trump has promised. But like, I think Trump has proven with Hillary, he didn't go after her. Like there will be no retribution. Like he doesn't look past. He wouldn't have done anything with their family.
I think mostly because he's too lazy. Like he doesn't care. Like he's too shiny object-y.
Right, and I just don't think he wants to go back and do that. Like I like the same with Hillary. Like he even said that he would, and he didn't. Like So pardoning his family, I thought was bizarre. Like
well, and to me, the biggest problem with it,
unless you think they did something wrong,
that's what that is my problem with it.
Like
actually.
his brother,
because I think it's pretty obvious that his brother was in the exact same grifting game that Hunter was,
for sure,
and. What bothers me about the conversation so often is that people go, well, there's no evidence that Biden took any of that money, so he's not corrupt. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you understand that like maybe what he wanted is for his family to be able to make a bunch of money without to trade on his name to make money. And that's enough for him. Like he didn't need to take a dime. It would be like people cry nepotism all the time. I've had this argument a couple times on the show I do on Fridays, and he keeps bringing up like, do you think that Chelsea Clinton would have a job at NBC or Jenna Bush Hager would have a job at NBC? I'm like, that's totally different. That is not the same thing as someone like
totally different,
totally different than what what's his brother's name? James Biden and Hunter Biden were very obviously doing. I mean, no one has given a credible it might not have been illegal. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Like so far, nothing in the money kind of stuff has been proven. Like that is not why Hunter was convicted of anything. He was convicted of not paying the taxes on that money and the gun thing. To be fair, I think the gun charge is ridiculous.
I know you said it before, but people have been charged with that in the past. That are not Hunter Biden,
but only in like never as a superseding. Or at least never that I've seen as this is the charge. It's normally like they're being brought in on other weapons charges or other things. And it's like the thing that the DOJ throws on there because they're trying to get you to take a plea deal. But, as far as I can tell, no one, state or federal, has ever been just prosecuted for lying on the form. It's sometimes secondary. So I thought that charge was dumb because I think that was, to me, the Justice Department trying to prove that they weren't biased towards Trump and that they were being fair by going after Biden's son. And I think that was what the Justice Department was trying to do. So let's take that charge away. But I think it's pretty obvious that they were at least grifting. And I think that it's pretty obvious that Joe Biden lied over and over again about what it was. So like, how do you think this... Do you think this changes everything? Like, do you think this gives every president permission to do this kind of thing in the future?
For sure. Yeah. Like, in fact, Trump wouldn't, but like, I think we need to like take a look at like presidential pardon powers after this. But again, Trump won't be the person to do it.
No. Well, I think that's my problem though, is that who will? Because no one will ever.
DeSantis would have.
Well, but do you think that? I mean, keep in mind you'd have to change the Constitution.
Yeah.
So that is a very high bar
for sure.
And but like, they can't pass a budget.
Presidents are using it for not what it was meant to be.
I agree.
And so that is the problem. Like, it was meant for like injustices, not people who have not even committed a crime yet.
Right. And to me, that is the craziest part of it. And we'll get to the other part of the pardons where it's literally people that have definitely not done anything illegal.
I know people hate on Liz Cheney, but like,
she's done nothing illegal.
Nothing illegal. Even with Fauci, like, I think that I like Fauci, but do I think he should be in jail or did a crime? Do I think he lied? Yeah, but
no. Yeah, lying is not. Now, if he lying in front of Congress or under oath, potentially, but like again, we obviously don't take that seriously as a country because Bill Clinton did that, and we just said, oh, well, not a big deal. Okay, so if it's not a big deal if the president does, and I'm not saying it's okay to lie under oath. I'm saying that is at best the only thing that I have seen anyone try to convince me of that Anthony Fauci did, or that any of that crew did wrong, was that maybe he lied under oath. I do think that what's interesting, have you seen the stuff that basically says now that you can't plead the fifth if Congress does pull them in?
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting because to me, the worst thing about COVID is that we still don't really have any answers for not only how did it happen, because I think it's pretty obvious that like I said, we don't have the full-on smoking gun on this, but to me, it's pretty obvious that Fauci and NIH were covering their asses
for China,
for funding the gain of function research that potentially this leaked out of. Now, I don't actually blame them for that. I blame the lab. Now, but it is partially to, if that did happen, if that's how COVID happened, we are partially to blame, like our government is, for funding something, first of all, that Obama said we can't do anymore. I mean, he executive order said we are not doing, and so to try to circumvent the president, I think is wrong. Obviously,
yes, I
agree. You were, especially when you were like in the executive branch, you work for that guy. Like that is, you are fully under the president's control. And then secondly, if we don't learn from the mistake,
it will happen again.
It will potentially happen again.
Yeah.
And I also think there's some, China needs to be held responsible for it, because it to me, it's very obvious. I know there's different intelligence agencies that say different things, but there's more consensus now that it was probably a lab leak, not on purpose. Because again, I think that's a dumb conspiracy theory, because why would China release it in China? It's a pretty terrible idea. It wrecked their economy and stuff too. So, but to me, that's important to get to the bottom of that. So I hope Congress continues to ask these people these kind of questions.
I do too, especially if you had a loved one die, like, or not even from COVID. If you had a loved one die during COVID and you couldn't attend, like, their children, like, there needs to be answers, and I agree there should be hearings about it.
I know so many people.
It doesn't seem Trump is pressed on that.
I don't think he is, but he doesn't have to be.
Right.
It can just be congressional Republicans, which hopefully there are enough people in that group that want to get to the bottom of this. I'm not totally convinced.
Rand Paul.
Although the Senate is, a little less the place that it can be. He's the one. He's definitely the one. I hope there are more people that do, because I think we need to learn that lesson. But either way, we both agree he didn't.
No.
At
the
best.
J6 committee.
And the January 6th committee, all the accusations I've seen are so easily disproven that you're just like, this is a vendetta. That's all this is. So do you think, okay, let's just reverse roles. Let's say that, because I think it's important for people to take off their partisan hats and think about, like, if the shoe was on the other foot and stuff. Kamala Harris is a prosecutor. Let's say she was on the campaign trail promising to go after whatever committee that investigated Biden for whatever. Let's just say that was the case. Do you think that do you think there's ever a situation where a president should give a preemptive pardon to someone that he does not think is guilty of any crime based on a potential threat?
That, they would have their time in court, to defend themselves.
Right.
And I think that's exactly what Anthony Fauci could have done, or Liz Cheney could have done if for some reason there were charges brought.
The only reasonable thing I've heard, the only one, is that sometimes, which is interesting coming from, I think, Joe Biden and Democrats right now, sometimes the legal process is the punishment that they're trying to do. They're trying to drown you in lawyer fees and all this kind of stuff. To me, that's so easily solved by if Donald Trump or the DOJ or whatever went after Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci, the list of all the, it's like AIDS and stuff. It's literally people that there's no way Donald Trump was going to go after, like, the AIDS of the January. He doesn't know. No one knows any of their names. You know what I mean? This is not, but like, those people got pardoned. A bunch of people that didn't even know. None of these people knew. So I just don't see any reason that we couldn't say, okay, if he goes after Liz Cheney, there's a legal defense fund. Do you not think that would get tons of money? And she's not going to go into, it's not going to be, and I would honestly rather that play out, because to me, what bothers me is that I agree. I don't think Trump would have done it. I think he's too distracted. I think that he'd said the same thing with Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. He never even pretended there was going to be an investigation or anything.
I even think on day one of his first term, he said I am not
right. He did. Yeah.
I'm looking forward.
Now, it's not because I think Donald Trump's the bigger man, because I think we'll get to his first days in office so far, and I think he's already done some things that are pretty vindictive and
bangers.
See, we'll see. So it's not that I think he's above it. I just think he is just too distracted. He's not going to go. He has other things that he wants to do, and frankly, it doesn't please. It pleases him and a chunk of his base, and no one else.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean he's not going to do it, but
now I also think I don't even think it was Biden. I think it was like people around him that were like, we want, especially with like the actual criminals, like we're in jail. Like,
oh, I think you're probably right on
like
that. Yeah.
those, like, I think it was like a left wing aide that did that. Like for Liz Cheney and them, I think again, like now for his family, that was him.
That's him.
But well, actually it was Jill.
Yeah, but here's a weird question that I want. Like, why do the Hunter thing in December and then do the rest of the family literally with hours to go?
Because I think he was like, I'm going to drop this bomb. And so when I drop the other bombs, it won't be, it's like, bam, bam, like, you know, like we'll let that settle for a minute. And then like, we'll do the other ones later, right before. Because I mean, the other ones were like while Trump was getting inaugurated, like that news came out. Like, so
right,
I think
but
that would
like,
be buried a bit because he knew that Trump was about to have all these executive orders. He knew that Trump was going to do his pardons.
But don't you think you could just do the Hunter one at the same time too? I mean, that was the only thing in the news cycle for like a week because there was nothing going on in Washington. It was mid-December, right, when he did that? So I thought that was a weird thing. And that's why I do think that there is. And then Mike Johnson's interview on the Free Press. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Now,
like that's not surprising, but that's not surprising.
I know, but like the only surprising thing to me is like, why, Mike Johnson? Why didn't you tell us this earlier?
I mean, I think he's been trying to. I think people have been trying to, and it's like falling on deaf ears.
No, but I mean that specific story about him not knowing about signing the LNG thing and thinking it was for research, and it was about like literally pausing, and he was like, I believe Joe Biden. I believe he didn't know what he signed.
I know.
So I do think you're right about like the people that murdered people and like there's no way someone brought that to him and he was like, yeah, this seems like unreasonable. He killed a cop. And
he just didn't know.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty obvious there was some of that going on for sure. But the family stuff he definitely knew about, and I think he definitely knew about the Liz Cheney and all that kind of stuff because he talked about that. I think he was
probably persuaded to it, but
I think you're right. He's obviously very persuadable and very. I mean, look at the
like feed him oatmeal and he'll be persuaded.
Well, and look at the 28th Amendment bull crap that he did. Where that was obviously was that Gillibrand that one or that was some senator was
Gillibrand.
Like, I think was tweeting it or trying to convince him to do that he could do it, and so I think it's pretty obvious that he was very malleable. I think he always has been as a politician. I think that that's nothing new for Joe Biden, but. I just think that it's done an enormous amount of harm because prediction right now, Trump will pardon more people like that than Joe Biden did.
What kind of people? Criminals?
No, like just Republicans and administrators because I think it gives him permission to say, even if you do something illegal for me, because that's the difference between these two people. Like no one asked Liz Cheney to do something illegal. It's just that Trump is accusing her of doing something illegal.
Yeah.
But the difference now is that now with that precedent and being able to say, well, Joe Biden did it, he's going to say the same. I think he's going to say the same thing before 4 years. I think that we're already seeing it. He's already pardoned. I mean, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
We'll get to all the January 6th stuff.
I think we will disagree on that.
Maybe. I bet we will. Well, maybe not on some of it, but so I think he's already shown that he's going to pardon people that are on his side. So if he's willing to do it, like I just foresee him going, well, I'm just going to preemptively pardon
he could have
my
done
whole.
That for his first term, like pardon his family. Didn't like.
I know, but I think it will happen now because of the precedent.
We'll see how it's.
Because I think it's just too easy to. I think it's just too easy to say. Just in case, whoever's running against
I don't
whoever.
think he'll do his family. I could see him doing like other people who might have been in like sticky, but like his family, like I don't think he'll do his family.
I think you're probably right. At this point, I don't see any reason. Of course, I don't see any reason to do.
His family aren't criminals like his family, Blake.
I know. Of course, I don't like. Not everyone on that list
Ivanka
was.
Need a pardon?
Yeah, well, I know, but like again, I think we're in a situation where if you can just say, you know,
I think he won't, in spite, to say like I'm a better man.
Yeah, but I don't think so. But that's a good prediction. We can write that one down.
Yeah, we will.
Of like, I think he will pardon for sure people in his administration. Maybe not family.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think he'll pardon anyone in his family. I think he'll pardon probably a few people in his administration.
Yeah, and I think that bothers me because now what it is, it's about who you're just pardoning powerful people. You're not pardoning justice gone awry. You are pardoning.
Yeah, it's a really bad precedent.
It's really bad, and I just think that eventually it's like presidents are just like doing blanket pardons for everyone in their party. They're just saying every congressional Republican is pardoned for anything they could have done in the last 10. By the way, the Biden pardons went back to 2014.
Oh, I know, Blake. And someone brought up this, which I thought was like interesting. Like, one of the aides that were pardoned. Like, what if we find out one of those aides like killed and raped a girl?
Well, to be fair, he did on most of those. This last round, my understanding is at least on the family one and on some of them that I saw, it did say non-violent. So it did. I think
on all of them.
On Hunter's, it did not actually.
Like,
I'm pretty sure
Hunter is like the Zodiac killer.
Maybe don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure Hunter's didn't say anything because I remember being like, it's literally the scope of any federal crime. He did. In fact, like the funniest joke I saw was like when that leaked, like it started.
Okay, he could like go.
It ended that day. He could have gone and like done any federal crime that day and not been able to be held responsible for it because like the date range. So I just think it's like. I think that that's what will happen. But unfortunately, you're right. I don't think that Republicans or Democrats will, even if Trump did all that stuff. I think, let's say just Trump says every one of my aides, every administration, every Republican in Congress. I don't see that Democrats and Republicans go, yeah, we're going to change the Constitution to make sure that they can't do that.
No, I don't either.
I think the easy solution for this is no pardons between the end of October and Inauguration Day of any election year.
Right, because that's the thing. I would feel more comfortable about, not even feel more comfortable, but respect them more if he had to stand up there and defend them and explain it. But he hasn't. And I think that's the biggest problem. Like, if you're going to pardon someone, you should stand up there and defend it and say why you did it. Like, but he hasn't. Right.
And even when you take away the like marijuana offenses and all that kind of stuff, he still pardoned more people than I think any president.
Oh, by far. There's
by
like
far.
A huge spike up.
And this used to be a couple hundred. Like I think George W. Bush was like, a couple hundred. Yeah, HW was a couple.
Obama, I think, was 400.
Yeah, and most of his were like that kind of drug stuff too. I think. And so look, let's look at every single one of these cases. It's just interesting to me that the two groups that are getting the most attention, we're just like not even looking at the ones that were like murderers. And
I know.
Okay, so he does that. He does the 28th Amendment thing, which
honestly embarrassing on your way out.
I don't think some people have talked about that that's a precedent too. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think Trump. I mean, I don't think Trump's going to like by tweet try to claim that. I mean, he does try to do all sorts of unconstitutional things, but kind of every president does now. That's just the new normal. Is presidents sign executive orders they know are illegal, and then when the court comes back and says no, that's illegal, they go, the Supreme Court told me I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's just the new stupid thing that presidents do, and it's been happening since Bush W essentially, and he didn't do that many of those things, but he had a couple of examples of those. Then Obama had more, and then Trump had more, and then Biden had more.
But Biden's like rollout of it, I thought was embarrassing.
It was really bizarre.
Bizarre.
To just declare it.
Did you see like Georgetown Law like defended it on Twitter? Also embarrassing.
And so does the American Bar Association. They try to claim, but like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for the record, said no. In 2020, she said, doesn't matter, doesn't count. You have to start all over because if we can count their late one, we have to count. There's all these other states that have rescinded theirs. It's a legal mess. You have to start all over again.
Yeah.
And so if the left's liberal justice hero, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said, this is not constitutional. This is not. And by the way, I'm not talking about the Biden part. I'm just talking about Virginia ratifying it in 2020.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Why did he not mention anything?
Right. Again, it was embarrassing.
It's really embarrassing. And it almost just got not talked about.
Because it was so, I think for most people who aren't tuned in, it didn't even like register.
I don't think it did at all. Because, and also, I mean, frankly, you're a woman, so let's ask your opinion. Do you think the Equal Rights Amendment, do you have a right? Do I have a right that you don't, that I'm aware of?
No.
Okay. I was just checking.
Embarrassing for women.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem with it, is that it would be a stupid amendment anyway, but it was certainly stupid that he was like, maybe I can, it's like he was so desperate to cement his legacy in those last few weeks.
He was like, let's try this.
And even in his farewell speech too. I mean, did you watch that?
No, I saw like clips on Twitter. I think the end of his presidency, it actually is sad. Like,
I think it is sad.
It made me sad, like seeing the clips. Like it's so obvious, it's like painfully obvious that he's too old, should not be there, doesn't know what he's talking about all the time. Like, I don't think his heart is in it anymore. Like,
I think, yeah.
It just, all of it made me sad.
Don't you think it makes Jill such a villain?
Oh, evil woman.
Because she could have.
Like now, especially all the stories that are coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and like even like Nancy Pelosi's sister, like beefing with her, like calling her Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
Lady McBiden.
Yeah.
Love that.
I think it's pretty, like, because here, like, my opinion the whole time was, by the way, I think Joe Biden was the right person from that field of Democrats in 2020. Like, there's no one else that I would have said should win that primary, because they all went crazy and on the progressive stuff. And it was very obvious that wasn't even where the Democratic Party really as a whole wanted to be.
Right.
And plus, I just thought it was pretty obvious that you go with the old, normal, boring guy against Trump when people were tired of Trump. I mean, it didn't make sense to roll the dice on Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of the fourth smallest town, or the fourth largest town in Indiana. You know, it just... that didn't seem like that was gonna fly. So if you were a Democrat in 2020, to me, Joe Biden was the correct choice. And Biden, I think, could have, even with his old age and even with all that stuff, could have done a lot of good. He could have
too. He could have been a uniter.
He also could have just like embraced the old guy thing and quit trying to be FDR.
Yes.
He just didn't.
No, because I think he wanted to be FDR.
I think he got enough people in your ear telling you that you are great. I'm sure it's easy to believe. You have to have an ego to run for president. You have to. You have to be a little bit of a narcissist. I think there's just part of that's ingrained in it. I mean, it's kind of like you probably have to be a heart surgeon. There's just certain personality types you have to think that you're that important. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But to be convinced that you're FDR, to me, was just so insane. And he could have done, I mean, we talk about mandates all the time, which I don't really buy. I mean, I don't think that the American public are like, that is the one thing we're asking you to do. It's like they're just hiring and firing people essentially when they vote. But to me, the thing that they were asking Biden to be is not Trump. That was it. It was just, don't be Trump. That was it. He could have reined in executive power if he wanted to. He could have said, we're ending this nonsense of like people writing executive orders and all this stuff. Or he could have given up some power. He could have been the guy that said, no, that's Congress's job. He could have done a lot of things to actually protect a potential, if really Trump is the end of the world and end of democracy, you would behave differently. You would actually set it up where he couldn't have the levers of power. But it's just very obvious that it wasn't serious about it. Ever.
Yeah, and he wanted power. And then I think he was also surrounded by like too many far left people that like just slowly convinced him on things that like he wasn't originally stood for.
And to me, the best proof of that was when, I think it was after the October 7th attack in Israel, that some people like protested his like aides at the White House, wrote a letter.
Because I was actually proud of Biden after October 7th.
I was too. And because I think he had the right, that was one of the best pro-Israel stances, like on October 8th or 7th, whenever he gave the speech or whatever. It was great. Yeah, and I gave him full credit for it. But I would have fired every one of those people.
They should have been fired.
Because look, if you work for the president, in my opinion, if they ask you to do stuff that you think is morally wrong, or you quit. Yeah. That's you either, I mean, you can argue, you can try to say, hey, I think we should do this instead, or I think that's unwise. Like, that's why the president surrounds himself with these people. But you can't try to circumvent them. And people were doing this in Trump's administration too. Yeah. Trying to like be the adult, which I'm torn on, like, do I want the adults there to rein him in? Because sometimes he needs to be reined in. I mean, I think that he hates all the people he hates. He owes, like, he hates Mitch McConnell, but he owes every success he had in his first term to Mitch McConnell. So, he should let people rein him in sometimes, because it's good. I mean, it's the same thing with the confirmation process now. It's like he wanted to just bypass the Senate. I'm like, no, the Senate will make those people be better. Yeah. And you should want that. Like, you should want them to be better nominees. So I just think that we've like, Biden could have done so many great things. And by great things, I don't mean be like consequential, like passing a bunch of legislation. I'm saying he could have been the guy that goes, I'm going to rein in the executive branch, or I'm going to just do the things that you asked me to do, not be crazy, not do a bunch of stuff. Obviously, the progressive thing has not worked out very well for him or the Democratic Party. No. So be the wiser, older person that goes like, I know you're young and passionate, but like, you got to understand that like, that's not politically viable, and say no to them. But he didn't. He couldn't. So, I mean, I think that there's, even with all the media and historians that are going to try to I just don't think they can inflate it. I don't.
No way.
It's not going to be possible.
No, what his approval rating going out was the lowest of any president.
The lowest of any president since we've done approval ratings.
Yeah, I don't think history will be kind to Joe Biden.
I don't think so either. And I don't, it's not even right now. I mean, you can't, it's hard to even find someone trying to defend him in a way that's not okay, we get what you're trying to do, but I don't think anyone's buying it.
No.
And I think he's solely responsible for the Democrats lose. I mean, not he's him running again, because Kamala was a terrible candidate. So yeah, I just think his legacy is going to be tarnished. So yeah, his last few days, no better than the last 4 years, in my opinion. And look, I want all presidents to succeed because I live here.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get to Trump's first few days.
Banger, banger, banger.
Okay, so what do you like? What do you like the first few days?
All of it.
Well, okay, what do you like? Give
all
me
of it.
All of it? Okay, so let's go to January 6th then.
Okay, we can go.
Let's just go straight to it. Okay, so you're okay with the pardoning of the people that planned it and violently attacked people?
I wish he would have done case by case, like JD had said. And I'm surprised. But then, I'm not surprised. He campaigned on this. He said he would. I was prepared for it.
But the quote was allegedly, F it, free them all. Or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not. Now, okay. Now, do I think a lot of them, our sentences were too harsh? Yes. And I think those should have been looked at and they should have been pardoned.
Me personally, obviously, I don't think that any of them should have been. And have you seen the lady that's refusing it?
You don't think any of them?
No.
Their sentences were way too long. Rapists
I don't care.
And murderers
I don't care.
got less time.
I think rapists and murderers should get more time. I don't think they should have gotten less.
I'm okay. I think the violent ones, again, I think they should still be in prison. I think they should serve their time.
I think the problem
is... But the judges were insane about these people. They were so mad about J6.
But have you seen the lady that refused it?
Yes. I guess I've seen the lady that refused it. You can refuse it.
But I mean, she's got a good point. She was like, my judge was wonderful. I deserved it. We did wrong. I deserved worse than I got because we were duped. And I did what... And she wasn't even one of the violent ones. She pleaded to a misdemeanor, but she did spend 60 days in jail. And she's saying she refused it. I just think that it sets, again, a precedent that says you can violently attack the government, and as long as your side then gets in power, you get out of jail free card.
The violent ones, I don't think they should have been.
I think it's going to bite them. It's not popular.
I don't think it is. I think he'll skate by. He campaigned on this. We all knew it was coming, Blake.
Yeah, but he didn't do it as much
Blake,
in the
you didn't think that he was going to part of them all?
I thought he honestly doesn't care about them.
I knew. I
said I don't think he cares about those people. I think he pretends to, but he doesn't really care about them.
No, I think he cared that their sentences were too harsh, and that or why would he do it day one if he didn't care?
Well, I mean, I think he has been convinced by people to care. But I mean, I think he only cares about himself. So he only cares about them in the sense that he thinks this is something that gets him a win. But I don't think he actually cares in the sense that he's trying to... I don't think he cares about his followers. I don't think he cares... I only cares about, giving them some red meat to throw him. I just don't think he does. And obviously we don't know it. We can't read his mind. So that's fine.
Or his heart.
Okay. But I just think it baffles me to say that political violence is okay. That's what you're saying in this situation. And I think that you're literally the Telegraph there is saying, if you're my supporter and you do something violent, I will get you out of jail for it.
If you've been overcharged.
No, I don't think so.
Is what he is saying. I'm just saying.
I don't think that's because he didn't say any of that.
Yeah, he did. He said these people were persecuted too.
The Proud Boys were
harshly.
The Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers that planned the attack, I don't think were harshly sentenced.
Again, the violence, I think it should have been looked at case by case. I'm with JD.
I'm okay with the case by case thing. I would even, if he would have done all the misdemeanor people that didn't do anything violent that walked into the Capitol.
Yeah, those people,
I still think I'm fine with it.
Let them go.
I'd be fine with looking at that, and I would have even said I understand where he's coming from on this, but it's the violent part that bothers me because, like I said, if they walk through the Capitol, it still bothers me because I think that that whole thing was so obviously the intention of it was violence and a coup. That was the intention of it.
Well,
Was
I think
to
a lot of people just walked in like thinking they could walk in.
yeah, but I mean, who sees the violence of people breaking in and thinks, oh, we just walk in?
Men that live in their parents' basement, they don't know.
I think they knew.
I don't think a lot of them knew that it was going to be a coup and that there was going to be violence. I just thought like, oh my gosh, hey,
I think that's the only. But
walk in the Capitol?
That's why they were there, though. That's why they were there, to try to stop them from counting the electorate, because they thought the election was stolen, which it wasn't. They were lied to by Donald Trump. I mean, they were lied to.
I know.
I know. But that's why I just don't think there's an excuse. And what bothers me is that it will be, I just think that everything Trump does gets excused. Like,
Blake, it's already, like, next week it's forgotten about.
I don't think this one will be.
I think so.
Because what's the second one of those people does another political violence thing, it's going to be back up. And there's no way they won't. Some of those people are insane. Like, one of them's already been arrested on a gun charge in Florida, which is kind of funny.
Lord help me.
Like a day after. I'm just saying, like, it's not that I'm trying to paint all of them. I agree. There's people that were not violent.
I'm saying, like, I think the Biden with the men that killed the police... like when you compare...
the same thing, though, there. I go, I would love to know what their reasoning is behind, like, pardoning someone that killed someone, period.
Right. But so, like, when you compare the two, like, I'll take, like, the MAGA grandma who, like, walked in the Capitol.
Okay, what about the Silk Road pardon guy?
No, I don't think violent...
No, not the violent one. The guy that he just pardoned for... Because he kind of promised the Libertarian Party he'd pardon the Silk Road guy that was, according to the government, hired hitmen to keep his identity secret and all sorts of stuff. So
yeah, I've like heard a little bit about that. But like, what was his sentence? It was a crazy long sentence.
I mean, he was dealing illicit drugs and paying hitmen to protect him. So I mean, I feel like
I'm okay with that.
But I don't think you would be if it was Biden.
Like, I'm not okay with people killing policemen.
Right? I know. But this guy did allegedly
he hired people to protect him.
No, to kill people. I think.
I thought you said to protect him.
Well, like as far as to protect his identity, it was. I think they alleged that he was killing, like he had killed people to this because it was all his identity was.
I remember this. I just thought it was drugs.
Well, I mean, it was a site that was. But the government did allege.
You could sell drugs.
Yeah. So he was a giant drug dealer. They were making $1 million a month. I mean, he was a drug dealer essentially, but also maybe some other shady stuff. So I just feel like the pardons of people that are connected to politically powerful people, that's what bothers me. It's no longer a thing where we're saying, oh, I'm looking at this case by case, and this person, is innocent. I mean, that's I think what it was supposed to be. Or George Washington, pardoning the Whiskey Rebellion people, sort of not preemptively, but or Confederate soldiers, things like that, where you go, okay, they did something wrong, but the country needs to move on, where there are these big things. And I would even understand that from if these January 6th things, I don't know. I can't find a way to justify the violent people.
No, I can't either. I think it should have been a case by case. But again, like, he said he was going to do this. He campaigned on this.
I know,
like, it is no surprise to anyone.
But will you say that about everything that he said, even if it's illegal? Or, I mean, if he invades Canada, is it going to be the same thing? He campaigned on this?
Oh, I want to invade Canada.
Gosh. That's my problem, is the line keeps getting moved for him.
No, like, I know. Trust me. I
know. And I'm saying you. I'm saying everyone. No, like, this it's just.
I don't agree with all the J6 pardons, but I'm just not surprised by it. Like, because he said he was going.
That's fair.
So
I agree.
What I mean, and like, I do think it will be like not a huge blip on his
maybe it
presidency.
Will be, but I think that's a problem if that's a blip of, like, these people were trying to, like, break into the Capitol and kill people, and we're like,
well,
as half the country, not really half the country, because most people don't feel that way, but his base at least feels like they're hostages. I mean, to refer to them as hostages is
no. I don't think they're no.
Yeah, I just think that Biden's behavior and then Trump's behavior there's just no way that doesn't escalate to the next president to do something poorly, unless we just manage to get a great president. But I just don't think it's going to. But JD Vance is lawless too. He's the one that says
I don't think JD and when he was interviewed, he said, it was looked up by case, and he said like the violent offenders, like JD wouldn't have done that. Blake.
But JD also said if the Supreme Court says something we don't like, they can try to enforce it. So I don't like that sentiment of just we can do what we want and no one can stop us. And that's essentially what Biden and Trump, which is why I always say they're more similar than people I think realize. Like they both essentially say, I've got the power, try to stop me. And then when the person does try to stop them, they go, well, they're illegitimate. I mean, that's Biden's go-to move with the Supreme Court. And Trump said the same thing. And J.D. Vance is saying the same thing. And he hasn't even gotten a bad ruling from the Supreme Court yet. So, I mean, maybe. I mean, the 9-0 TikTok thing. But, I mean, I don't know that J.D. Vance cares about that. I think he's just playing along because...
No, I don't think he does either.
Okay, let's talk about TikTok. You're okay with the TikTok thing? I don't think he can do it.
No, I'm not okay. Actually, that is one thing I'm not okay with. Now, if there's a potential buyer, like... and he does this like 75-day extension, like I'm okay with that, but like...
Right, but the reason there hasn't been a buyer yet is because the Chinese government will not sell it.
Blake, I know. I want TikTok to be banned, and I'm disappointed that it's not banned right now.
Yeah.
I think he did this 75 ban to try to appease people and to try and find a buyer. Because
I'm just trying to find the reason. Like, I don't understand it.
He had a donor that's like, a part owner.
Is that it?
And I think that he likes being popular on TikTok, Blake. He thinks that like TikTok helped him win the presidency. Like, these are things I think like.
I guess, but you just look at Congress, you look at every person that has seen the actual stuff that we don't get to see, and they voted unanimously. Democrats, Republicans, Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court one was easy because that was a slam dunk. That was like, this is not a First Amendment right. Like, we're not saying you can't make dance videos. We're saying the Chinese government can't own the app that you make dance videos on. And we've restricted foreign countries from owning media companies for a long time.
Right.
That's why Rupert Murdoch had to become an American citizen to start Fox News. So to me, it just doesn't make sense because I get that, there's a bunch of people that are going to be, this is popular, and maybe that's all it is. It's just, it was easy, and he knows it'll get struck down, and who cares kind of thing.
Yeah, it's an easy win. It makes him look like...
Yeah.
You know, the savior of TikTok.
But the messages on TikTok, like, that should scare us alone. That it was like, thanks to President Trump.
Someone like Tom Cotton, who is like really against this, will like get in Trump's ear and...
Right. I think the problem is that...
But in the end of the day, like, he can't, like, when the 75 days is up...
I don't think he can even extend it to 75 days. I think it'll get struck down.
Yeah, probably. That's what I'm saying.
Probably.
Like, even whatever he does, like, I think it'll still be shut down.
Yeah, I don't see any way that it
So, like, I think that's his,
stays.
like, view of, like, I tried to save it. I did the extensions, try to find a buyer, and, like, I couldn't. Okay, so now it's shut down.
Yeah. To me, what baffles me about the things he's done the last couple of days, it's not that I disagree with all of it. I mean,
you're bringing up like two things that I didn't like.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, there were other things. I mean, most of the stuff that he's done, in my opinion, is not
banger.
Well, I don't know. I actually don't think so because some of it is no. Look, if all the motivations that you're saying he has, that he wants to be popular, like most presidents would want. What they want to do is get in there and get like easy wins. You know, stuff that like it's a flashy headline. It looks, and a lot of the executive orders are that, and that they don't mean anything, but they're not, to me, they're not the reasons that people voted for him.
The immigration?
Well, the immigration stuff notwithstanding, but I mean, even that.
I mean, that was the biggest, I think that's, that's like one of the biggest reasons that he was elected, and and that's
immigration and the economy. I mean, inflation, those are the two things.
And like the immigration, I mean, economy and inflation, like that's going to take, you know.
Right. It just seems like you would do something. It doesn't seem like any of the executive orders were economic at all. And that confuses
say that,
me.
Like getting out of like the Paris Agreement and like
that's climate change stuff.
Yeah, I know, but so like regulations turned off. Like I think that will help the economy.
But like
drilling, that will help the economy.
Oh yeah, for sure, that kind of stuff. I just think that most of it is not. Like, what's going to grab the headlines is the TikTok thing, the January 6th thing, maybe the Silk Road thing, probably not on that one.
No one is talking about Silk
But those
Road,
other two, I mean, I think, so it's like, why most presidents want to do the stuff that, like, the first 100 days, they realize they've got to, hit the ground running and stuff. And I just...
Like the gender thing, people love that.
Yeah, I mean, people do love some of that stuff. I think you're right.
Firing all the DEI. Love that.
But I think people do.
That's making noise.
But I don't think it. I think that the problem is that's not getting the headlines that the TikTok and the January 6th thing did. So that's why I go, why do those other things? Why do that when that distracts from the things that almost everyone, including the people that had probably never voted for Trump and said they never would and did because they were like, okay, when I'm looking at this, the two choices here and the paths, even when you just look at the progressivism and stuff that people clearly rejected in November, in my opinion, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I think you're right. It's probably just someone gets in his ear or a donor gets in his ear. And I think you're right. He just wants to be popular, but I think he wants to be popular with that crowd. And I don't think he's always thinking about like, okay, but what will my approval rating with people be if I do this? And I'm not saying everyone should do that all the time because I don't like everyone looking at that. I think we look at the polls too much, although it sounds like Biden was very protected from them.
Yeah.
But does that make sense? I feel like there were better things.
Okay, what could he have done? Because I think like all of his executive orders have been
I don't think it's so much what he could have done. I think it's
so good.
There were some of them
and so good for conservatives.
Yeah, but I don't think TikTok was. I don't think January 6th was.
And that wasn't an executive order. TikTok. That was just like he's extending.
That he's trying to do it via executive order. It probably won't work. But I mean, that is an executive order he's trying to do. He can't do it. I mean, it's a law signed by Congress. I mean,
yeah.
So I don't think it'll work. But my point is, don't do the things that are unpopular. Like someone called it popularism instead of popular. It's like. Do things that are broadly popular, like very broadly popular.
Okay,
like
well, the immigration.
75%. I think the immigration is that one. Yeah. Now, but not the. Again, tread lightly because immigration's one of those things where if you ask it in a poll, it's normally some stupid question like, do you think we should have less or more immigration? And it's like, well, that's not the right question. The right question is like, what kind of immigration do we want? Do we want people pouring over the border, or do we want a system where we actually know where they are and can like check? Like those are two different questions. And I think most people just want there to be a system. I think that most people are just kind of mad that the government does not seem to care. I mean, It's just executive order ping-ponging back and forth between parties, and Congress hasn't done much. So the first thing I would have done if I were him, if I'm Donald Trump, and I'm not trying to say I have any other, I am Donald Trump. It's not if I were president. I would have had Republicans already have that border bill, but with more Republican stuff in it. And I would have had that on my desk to sign today. That's what I would have done. Is like, because the Lake and Riley Act, frankly, is not going to do what it's not going to fix immigration. I'm not saying I'm against it. It's just not going to fix the real problems that we have.
Yeah.
And his executive orders are not going to fix the problems that we have because the Democrat can just come in and undo them, which is what Biden did and how he got the border crisis in the first place. So you have to do it via Congress. I would have had on November, the day after the election, I would have said, Congress, your job right now is to take James Lankford's bill and juice it up even more because we don't have a Democratic president now, and we don't have to, like, we've got the Senate now, and Democrats are going to sign it because they know that this is a top issue for people. It was the number 2 issue. It was basically inflation and immigration. That was it. And so I would have had a bill on my desk on day one. Or 2 or 3 or something.
Well, I think they will get to that.
Maybe, but I haven't heard any talk about a bill. I think that's where I would say Trump wants to get rid of the deep state and he wants to drain the swamp. I would be like, okay, I'm not signing an executive order that a Democrat can come in here and undo. I'm signing a law that's a lot harder to undo. And I just don't know. Surely someone on his team has thought of that, but I just wonder why we haven't, because that border bill was a good bill, I think. I mean, like, if you would have told a Republican, if you would have said 20 years ago that, hey, there's this border bill and there's not going to be any, there's not going to be these like paths for citizenship. There's not going to be Dreamer stuff in it. You'd have been like, Republicans must have 75% of the House and 65 seats in the Senate to be able to get that kind of bill. So it's crazy that obviously Democrats knew that this was a big enough problem electorally for them that they had to play ball. Like for Biden to say basically, yeah, you guys come up with a bill. But, now you've got even more leeway because you're the Republican president and you've got Republican majorities in both the House and the Senate. So that's the first thing I would have done.
Okay.
Because I think it's important, too.
No, I do too. But I think that will come.
I hope so.
And
I hope it will.
I think the executive orders that he took, and I think the wall will resume.
Yeah, although the wall is one of those things where I go,
the wall,
I'm not against it. I just don't think it's the solution. I think that there are.
But I think declaring that the border is a national.
Yeah.
I think that's a good step.
Although I think it's less than it was. The thing that bothers me about the national emergency thing is that every president is basically declaring everything an emergency to do executive stuff. And I just wish Congress would say, all right, we got a time lapse on that.
But I think the border is a national emergency.
I think it has been. I think it's a little less than it was 6 months ago, but it's still one of those things that we have to solve it, but you've got to solve it via legislation. And to me, I would love Trump to be like, hey, Congress, I'm doing my job. Why don't you do yours? That's what I would love a president to do.
Yeah, maybe he will.
I hope so. And I think if we don't get an actual immigration reform in this term, it will never happen.
Oh, surely we will, Blake.
I hope so. But I mean, Congress is so not willing to do that job. And I think the only reason they were in this last, with the Langford bill and stuff like that was because Democrats knew they needed to do something to save their seats. I mean, I think that's essentially what they were doing.
Well, I mean, 2 years from now.
Yeah, maybe people will feel that way.
Maybe we'll be
But the only reason I don't think we'll be in that position is because the border will not be the mess it was last spring or for really the last several years. But I mean, until Biden re-signed those executive orders that he pretended he couldn't do, they just basically put it back to the way Trump was. And that's the other thing is that really Biden undid a lot of the stuff he did with the border with undoing those executive orders. So it's kind of already back. I mean, other than remain in Mexico.
I was like, remain in Mexico. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge thing. I agree. That's a huge thing.
But he's got to get Mexico to agree with that, though.
I think he will.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I think that should be the app and we need an asylum system that it works way better. You can't be waiting 7 years.
The criminal illegally, that's a huge win.
We should absolutely do that.
And an easy win.
But I think it's way harder to fulfill his promise of deporting all 16 million.
But even if there's a start and getting rid of the criminals, people will
they allegedly have already
that.
started to process 300 or something.
Love to see it, Blake.
And
that's a headline. People are saying that headline.
Yeah, and that is I'm 1,000% on board with. There's no reason you should be able to commit, especially a violent crime in our country, and not be immediately kicked out of the country. I don't care if we send you to Guantanamo. It doesn't you should not be able to be here. That just seems. Like I said, I don't think the Lake and Riley Act is the right way to do it because if Congress doesn't give more beds to detention centers, if you require the government to put someone in that detention center and you don't have any funding for those, you're going to have to release someone.
Yeah.
And there's a chance they release. I mean, there's a really good chance that the federal government will release the next Lake and Riley killer because they had to fill the bed with someone that shoplifted. And that will be a whole mess, too, because we should, we're just not taking this seriously enough because it is complicated. And it is hard for Congress to solve. It's but they don't want to do the hard thing. So, yeah, I'm for you. That stuff is, the border stuff, I think, will get him some wins, but he's going to actually have to back it up, I think, with an actual border bill for there to be a real, not just border bill, but immigration bill. I mean, I think we have to totally change.
I think that will come. I think
I hope so. Yeah.
People have seen how important that was for the election.
Yeah, I just would have had that that to me. If it was coming real soon, we would hear about like I said, I would already have had it.
Maybe we will be Blake
because they already had it written. You could have signed that bill.
Blake, that's. Wait, be patient, Blake.
I'm just saying, if you want to hit the ground running, I'd be signing bills.
Yeah.
And I think that's the.
Well, it's day 4.
I know. I'm just saying the border, because that was such a high priority, I would have.
He's got to clean out staff first, Blake.
I would have been. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have even been. The carpets wouldn't have been changed and the drapes. I'd have been signing that bill for sure. Same thing with any of the other kind of stuff that he wants to do that I think you have to have Congress to do that he can't. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's been, for the most part, yeah, he's hitting the ground running. Do you think, I think most of his cabinet's going to get
yeah, we
confirmed.
Talked about that. I think everyone's going to get confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, I still think RFK Jr. could have a problem.
See, I think maybe some Dems might even vote for RFK.
I don't think so, because I think what most people Tulsi Gabbard and him were basically ostracized by Democrats before they were accepted by Republicans. And so I don't see that there's any
Fetterman?
Well, Fetterman's different though. Fetterman wasn't around for either like Tulsi Gabbard being around. So like
I know, but I'm saying he could be one of the ones.
I don't know. Do you think he'd go RFK Jr.?
Yeah, I do.
You think so?
Yeah, I do.
He could. I mean, like the thing is, it's just a slim margin. So if
there's a rumor that he's like switting parties. Have you seen that?
I don't buy it because like
I would be shocked, but I've seen that rumor.
I would never. I mean, he's pretty liberal. I mean, he's not like a middle of the road Democrat. He's just not insane.
Yeah,
either.
I know.
Like he's like
very likable.
I agree, and I will happily admit that I was wrong. I wasn't wrong about him. I was concerned that stroke that he couldn't do the job. I'm like, if you can't understand what people are saying, and you're a senator, and talking and listening is like most of your job. I didn't think he could do the job. Yeah. But, he's recovered better, and he's been one of the better Democrats as far as just not towing the party line of insanity.
Yeah. No, I think they'll all get confirmed.
I think if I had to like bet money, I would say you're right. But I think
you didn't say that to me 2 weeks ago.
Did I say I would bet money?
You said you didn't think that Pete was going to get confirmed.
Well, but that was before his confirmation hearings, which I think...
Oh, so you think that's what swung it?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily swung. I think Democrats did an absolutely terrible job.
Yeah, they did. Screaming at him.
It was like... What did you say? What's her name? I mean, she really... from Hawaii.
Oh my gosh, Macy Hironi. Dumbest person.
Okay, that's the first time I've like sat down and watched, not the first time, but it's the first time in a while I've sat down and like watched a confirmation hearing, not just like the clips. And first of all, it struck me how old the senators for the most part are. And how, I go, that person is definitely not smart.
Oh, I thought she was drunk.
She did sound kind of drunk.
Right? She was like slurring her words.
And to me, it was also just, okay.
And you could tell she was like reading off of what like aides had written for her.
That's the thing is it's just like a circus because everyone's just trying to get clips for fundraising. That's basically all it is. And that to me is what proves how unserious they are. Here's a guy that I don't think he's qualified for the job. I'm kind of one of those people that says, for the most part, you give the cabinet that the president wants because people elected him. And so I say it's not about unqualification, it's about disqualification. It's like, to me, the disqualifying thing for me, is that, to me, all the sex and drunkenness and potential, it's like...
cheating on his wife.
Yeah, like multiple, cheating on his wife, and then his baby mama. And
baby mama, yeah.
Like, to me, that the judgment there, I go, and then also just to be the Secretary of Defense, and there's a blackmail there's so much stuff that you can blackmail a guy on. And I worry about that with China and Russia trying to do kind of stuff. And I do worry about someone's judgment when it's so clearly bad. To me, that's the problem. The fact that he won't be able to manage it because he's never managed 3 million employees. You let someone fail, I think, when it's just like, oh, well, they're not the normal qualification. Yeah, give him the job. That's fine. And if he fails at it, we'll fire him or he'll resign. And now that worries me with the Secretary of Defense because I think we're about to, we're on the precipice of potentially World War III. So I kind of want that person to be pretty serious at the job. But I think he'll get through because Democrats it's like they coordinated their questions, but no one thought, like, let's just skip the stuff that doesn't really matter, frankly. Like, I don't. Like, why go after all the stuff that he can just go, well, that's an attack. I mean, to me, Tim Kaine was the first one that sounded a little sane to go like, look, but you're still admitting that you had sex with another woman while you were married to one woman and had cheated on her with another woman that you had a baby with. And like, I question your judgment because of that. You're admitting at least that. Forget the accusations that he's denying. Like, just skip that stuff. I just think Democrats did so poorly. I don't like that he didn't meet with Democrats. I think if you are trying to have that job, I think you should meet with everyone that wants to meet with you. I also think they could have worked out a lot of that stuff.
Right, if they had met.
Behind closed doors. And everyone's not embarrassed. Because I think Democrats should be embarrassed for the way they did it. I just don't think they did a good job. And I think Republicans should have asked tougher questions too. Because like I said, I think the Senate should take that job a little more seriously. I thought
Joni Ernst had good questions.
No, some of them did, but some of them was just so clearly like, well, we've already met and we like you, and it was
loved Mark Wayne Mullen's questions.
I didn't actually see his part because I was. I'm
like a huge Mark Wayne girl now.
You are?
Oh my gosh, I love him.
I'm still not sold on him. I mean, he's done a couple. His tanking of Gates was like, I was like, oh, good. I'm very proud of you for actually doing a thing that was probably a little scary.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally going to Trump and saying, I will not confirm him.
Yeah, really appreciate. I think he's a good old boy.
I think so too, but his performative stuff bothers me. And I realize that's part of politics and stuff, but and maybe he's maturing. I mean, you do see this happen with a lot of people. They come in as a freshman congressman and then they get to the Senate and they realize, oh, like there's some actually serious stuff here. So there's been other people like that. Like, I mean, Fetterman was less, but I'm happy to be surprised that someone can do a better job than I thought they would. But I'm not like his Gates thing was, I will give him full props. And I did. I just said, look, that's tough to go to Trump and basically say, I will tank this guy. And for reasons that you don't care about. Because I know Trump does not care if someone's a sex pest.
Yeah.
Obviously. he actually prefers to nominate them for some reason. And that's another thing. I just go like, why deal with it? Like, why deal with the headache of Hegseth?
Yeah, no, I didn't. Oh, I get head. I never understood Matt.
But Ron DeSantis would be way better.
Why would Ron DeSantis work for Trump?
To be Secretary of Defense?
No way. He wouldn't.
I think you're right. Like, it would be foolish potentially. But
foolish.
But I think if he got asked to, he would do it.
No, I don't. By Trump?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think he would. No way.
Everyone else has come back. I think it's only a matter of look. He's going to be out in 2026. If he wants to run in 2028, he's going to have to start sucking up to Trump.
I think he's happy with being the best governor in the country right now. I don't think that.
But he wants to be president.
No, I know he wants to be president. I don't think
you
that he
do
wants
something.
to work. Would you want to work under President Trump?
No, of course I wouldn't. But if
I'm saying I don't think he would either.
But if he wants to be the president in 2028, he can't just sit on his hand from 2026 to 2028. He's got to have a job, probably.
Yeah, but
right. I just think that there were at least 10 other people that were more qualified to be, and you wouldn't have to have the fight, and you wouldn't have to have any of this stuff. I think, and it's not like Ron DeSantis isn't good on TV.
I think I don't think that is for Ron right now.
Oh, look, I agree with you. Maybe he wouldn't take it. Maybe he wouldn't
take it. I don't think he would take it.
Because he has a good excuse. He'd be like, no, I want to finish my turn. I want to finish. He has a way out without insulting Trump, for sure. But I mean, obviously it didn't come up, but it might.
Also, I don't think Trump asked him.
Oh, no, for sure. But I'm saying, I know someone leaked that.
Yeah.
From Trump team that obviously wanted, I mean, maybe it wasn't even mentioned. Maybe it was just a leak that wasn't real, but someone wanted a more serious Secretary of Defense. Okay. So I wouldn't bet money. I'm with you. I would not bet money, but if I had to bet, I mean, I think RFK Jr. has a little bit of problem only because I could see him flying off the handle in the Senate hearing and it being a bad look and him withdrawing his nomination.
Yeah, I hope they're really prepping him.
In Tulsi, I could see the same thing happening. Not so much flying off the handle, but I could see her getting caught not knowing some basic answers to even questions Republicans ask that will make them go. I feel good
about Tulsi.
I feel better about her.
They're prepping them all. The way that Pete came off, I was so impressed that I think they've been all prepped really well.
Yeah, we'll see. How many of them do you think? Who do you think doesn't make it quickly?
If I were to guess, I think they'll all get confirmed. But if I had to
no, I meant who will get fired or resign first?
RFK.
You think so?
Yeah, just because I think personality is clashing wise.
I think it's Rubio.
Oh, no, I think Rubio is in it.
I think at some point.
No, and I think he'll do so well.
Well, I will say this. Here's where I'll hedge on that.
And he's so Trump right now. I think.
Yeah, but it depends who gets Trump's ear on foreign policy stuff. That's what's so weird about Trump with foreign policy. He talks all sorts of game. And then, most people will look it up live while I'm telling them that Trump was harder on Russia than Obama was. And they're like, no, he loves Russia. He's look at the sanctions. Look at and he had tougher sanctions. And yeah, he was tougher on Russia. His administration was. And you already look, his caveat on pausing foreign aid, not to Israel or Ukraine. So it's okay, maybe he doesn't really care about that stuff and is willing. And things change when you're actually the president. Obviously, you're actually privy to how these things work, and they're way more complicated than people think they are. And that's why, for the most part, you see the same foreign policy from every president. There's not that much difference. I mean, the difference is I think Obama and Biden were both very, very scared to do anything that could possibly escalate anything anywhere. And I don't think that's I think that's why so many things happened under their watch. I think because most people realized they could get away with it. I mean, I don't think October 7th happens under Trump.
No way.
Not because Trump prevents it, but I think he's just enough of a loose cannon that people don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I
think that's why the hostage deal was.
Well, yeah, that one's tricky. I don't love the hostage deal.
No, I don't either. I don't either.
Yeah.
But.
Because frankly, I think Trump should. Here's what bothers me about it. I feel like Trump was saying there's going to be hell to pay if there's not a deal because I don't want to deal with it. I don't think it was that if there's not a deal, like I'm going to come in there like a wrecking ball because to me, the fact that no one is saying these American hostages' names that have been there for, how many days? I mean, forever. It's a year and a half now or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not, there's no, I don't love it. I'm not like
I don't love it either. But I think Hamas will not go through with it. Like I think that they'll break.
Yeah, but then what's the deal? I mean, to me, the only solution to this is Hamas has to be crushed.
That's what I mean. So so they don't do it.
Yeah.
So then Hamas will be crushed.
Right. So but I just hope that the people convince Trump that that's the right thing to do. Yeah, and I mean,
for sure.
And you got to wonder,
so.
Yeah, and so I wonder what will happen foreign policy wise, because to me that's the biggest question mark. I know what he's going to do domestically for the most part. I don't think someone's going to get to talk him out of the tariffs. I think he will do it. I think it will be very detrimental to his presidency. Do you think he'll do the tariffs?
Man, I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's the only. Someone pointed out. I can't remember who it was.
He keeps saying it, Blake.
Yeah, but someone pointed out that it's the only thing he's been consistent about since the 80s. Is he thinks we're getting screwed on trade. He's been. Now I think he's wrong. I don't think he understands it. I don't think he understands how tariffs work. Honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to just be like Trump's dumb. I think he really doesn't understand. He thinks China will pay for them. It's not how it works. We will pay for them.
Right.
And so that the thing about that is that, in Biden's farewell, he's trying to
oh my gosh.
and Blinken's doing the same thing, trying to say, oh, we know it'll take time to see the results of the things we've done.
That's what they say about it. But I have heard.
Now, here's the difference.
I had heard say that it will take time for tariffs.
No, it won't, though. Because here's the thing. If you put a tariff on China or Canada and Mexico on February 1st, which is now what he's saying. It was day one. Now it's February 1st, which is fine, whatever. I'm not saying he needed to do that on day one. I think it will be beneficial to him if he doesn't do the tariffs. But if he slaps 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, immediately any good that comes in from those countries is going to be at least 25% more expensive.
I know.
And when the number one thing more than inflation, more than immigration was inflation.
Yeah.
That's what absolutely sunk Biden and a lot of leaders across the whole world. Because this was I think it was the first time, I'm going to get this stat wrong. It was, I think, the first time in history that every incumbent basically got beat in the major countries in the world.
Yeah.
If they had an election this year, that they all lost their seats of power. And so it's pretty clear, that's normal. No president has survived the inflation thing. Jimmy Carter didn't do it. And certainly Biden has not survived well. Look at the Great Depression, all these kind of things. There's all these situations where sometimes, even if it's not the president's fault or the party that's in power's fault, they're still getting the blame for it. And I do think I think some of the inflation was absolutely Biden's fault, not absolving of that. But that's the top of voters' mind. It. If they, and for the most part, Biden's also a little bit correct. Trump did some things that were inflationary too. We just didn't feel them until Biden was in the White House. Trump's spending was also insane and was inflationary. And and so was Biden's. Now, Biden's was worse because Trump was actually the president during COVID, and the economy was already kind of roaring back when he passes his stimulus stuff. So to me, Biden's more to blame, whereas Trump and Congress at the time were going, what are we going to do? We got to do something. And I still wish they would have pumped the brakes on some of that stuff. But either way, the point is, tariffs, that will not take 9 months to feel. You'll feel it tomorrow if those prices go up. I say tomorrow. However long it takes for the thing to get from Mexico to here and then on the shelf. And probably even faster than that, because if they announce the tariffs, everyone's just going to raise the prices immediately if their sources are from. And so, China is one thing. I get the China stuff because I think China is a geopolitical foe, and we've got a lot of things that we got to squeeze them economically, I think, in some ways, but that's hard because our economies are really tied. I hope that he doesn't do it. I hope that it's not a campaign promise he follows through on, because I think it'll be a disaster.
I do too. And I think like, if you're like what you said, if like prices like rise or whatever, like, and I think he would immediately like be like, oh, well, we can't do this. Like,
yeah, but I mean,
because
maybe
like, that's what he ran on. Like, and he wants the economy to be booming, and he doesn't like want people to feel this. So like,
yeah, I hope that he could correct that quickly. The thing about like Biden's presidency was sunk 7 months into it.
Yeah,
it was August. It was the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and then inflation hits.
Yeah.
Okay, so he only got 7 months, and then it never recovered. It dropped, and it never came up. And I think Trump is overestimating his mandate. I think he's overestimating how much he won by. I think he won by a landslide, or he thinks he won by a landslide. Yeah. He won by 1.5% of the popular vote. He got all those swing states for sure. But again, it's a little bit like, yeah, you got all the swing states, but not by the margins. I mean, first of all, to barely beat Kamala Harris, who might be the worst candidate I've ever seen run for president. I mean, I'm not that old, I guess. So, or at least that actually made it to that level. I'm not ran in a primary. There's been worse in the primaries for sure. There were worse this year in the primary, but on the Republican side. But to me, to barely beat her, I think he's over confident in how popular he is. And I think the second prices potentially, like he could potentially be sunk 7 months into this too. And I hope I want him to do well because I live here, and some of the things the Republican Party still stands for, I like. I mean, I think immigration needs to be reformed. I think that we do need to, I would love to see him like tackle, let's actually look at the tax code. I mean, that's something that I think that he's such a bully, and he gets the Republicans to fall right in line with him. And he's even at a point where he can get Democrats to fall in line with him to some degree, because they're trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
What I really hope from him is that he realizes he can actually use that for actually good policies that have been impossible. It's been impossible to get real tax reform, not like a tax cut, like not 4,000 pages of a tax code, or fix immigration. It's not been touched since the 80s or 90s or something is the last immigration kind of bill we've had. So, I mean, he could do that kind of stuff. I think he has that kind of clout right now, but who's going to be the person in his ear telling him to do that? Like, because I think he actually couldn't, not FDR. I think that's ridiculous to say that. First of all, I don't like FDR. I think that he is the reason we have this gigantic government now. But I think it's more realistic to tell Trump, like, you could actually do really almost anything you want. Like, you could actually make real change happen, because that's the kind of, it's not that I think he had some monumental victory. It's that I think the wind's at his back way more than it was in his first term.
Vibes are high.
And even Democrats, Democrats are just realizing like they lost terribly. They've got a whole identity crisis they've got to figure out. And you can take advantage of that in a way that a president in my lifetime, Ronald Reagan is the exception, but I was very young when he was president. So I don't know. I mean, do you think that what would be your dream thing that he does? I mean, if you could pick something, you could whisper in his ear.
I mean, honestly, as I said, everything, all his minus like the J6.
Right. But like something that's not on that list right now, maybe.
Not on the list right now.
Or is on the list, but you would do it in a different way.
I mean, I would really be focusing on immigration and like all regulations off too. Like,
deregulation, I am for.
So like, and I think he will do that. But I mean, everything so far I've really, really, really loved.
Yeah, I mean, I liked a lot of the stuff is a little performative. I mean, some of the, I get that that's just part of it. It's not that I mind it. It's like,
but it's also like taking showing like no, we're gonna have one flag at the embassies and it's gonna be the American flag. Yeah, like. I know that's like a silly kind of thing, but it's like
most of it is like silly, but it's what they do. And I'm fine with
Doge.
I'm
excited about Doge.
Oh, yeah, I'm into
into that. I'm excited to see what Doge will do.
So Ramaswamy's out apparently.
Yeah, Ramaswamy's out.
That's quick. Do you think Musk lasts much longer?
Oh my gosh, I worry about Trump and Musk relationship every night when I go to bed.
I think there's no way it lasts through like the spring. Like, I don't think we get to summer.
I think it lasts longer than that. I don't think it lasts his whole term. I think like a couple years in, and then and I'm like hoping it's like an amicable like.
I think there's not a chance.
Like, again,
those two egos for it to be
it's
amicable.
Inevitable. I know their demise
It's a train wreck.
is inevitable, but I hope he sticks around and like heads up Doge and like actually gets things done. I would say that is what I would like most like to see is like Doge actually being effective and like cutting government waste. Like I think the American people would love to see that.
I would too. I think again though it's an overpromise underdeliver problem because first it was $2 trillion and then it was $1 trillion. Well, they don't even have $1 trillion in discretionary spending you could cut. Like I know, but like,
okay, say they like cut $1 million. Like okay, like people look at that and they're like, okay, Doge.
Yeah, but like I'm worried about the national debt. And like that's what I think we've got to have a conversation about. And to me, Trump and Biden don't care about it because they're going to be dead by the time it comes to write that check. But like I have kids that are going to have to deal with that, and I'm going to have to deal with it probably. You and I are going to have to deal with it, and that's like something where you actually have to have like real meaning. Like the thing is, I think Trump could like. The other thing, I mean, like, I think you could actually take on entitlements. I think you could actually say, like, we've got to do something about Social Security. The numbers don't add up. Now, I just don't think he cares to have that fight because it's not a thing he cares about.
Yeah, but I think, like, Republicans in charge might.
That would, I mean, if I had, look, I will sing his praises if he managed to get, like, actual entitlement reform that changes the course of the national debt. Like, that would be incredible. I just don't think he cares about that, so I don't think it's realistic. But, I mean, that would be something that I'd go, I think he would have the ability to do because he gets to, like, bark at Republicans to get in line or he's going to primary them. I mean, that's still his, like, threat all the time.
Oh, I know. And that's why everyone's getting confirmed.
Right, yeah. And so, to me, use that to actually get some legislation passed and say, do your job. I said, I'm not optimistic that would happen. I just think Musk, I don't think it will. He's already mad about the AI stuff apparently, and to me the whole him, what was the thing in December? I mean, there's so many things that have happened. There was the H-1B visa thing, but then there was something else
that's
where
what I thought you were going to talk about.
He and what was the other thing where it was like, it was kind of like, wait, did you just announce that and kind of make that have to be Trump's policy position? What was it? Why can't I'm literally drawing a blank on it.
I know what you're talking about too, but I can't think of it either.
To me, that was like ooh, you are kind of playing with fire. Because the thing is, we know Trump has an ego and he does not want the spotlight off of him. And
what was it? And people were like, "Oh, is Musk president now?" Like,
yeah, because that was all the like. And look, I was like, "There's no better way to make Donald Trump mad than pretend that he's not, that he's like lesser than he is."
Yeah,
that's the ultimate way to make him mad. I honestly think that he gets more mad about that kind of like disrespect or whatever than he does about like being.
And like libs were even goading at it, being like.
Yeah, and to me,
knowing they knew that.
To me, it was a power play by Musk. I mean, to like. Because, look, again, if I work for the president, I'm clearing that kind of thing, no matter who the president is. I'm not going out and saying this is the policy of the administration without checking first. And I think it's pretty obvious that wasn't the case. Because what was it? I really wish I could remember what it was. There's been too many things the last couple
he's been
weeks.
Involved in so many things, UK politics recently.
I don't see him lasting.
I don't either, but... Maybe like now that he's won, like he maybe will kind of take a step back because like he does have, SpaceX, Tesla. Like
that's the thing is, I mean, we know that the goal here is just for him to be richer. I mean, that's, and I don't even mind that's the goal. Like it doesn't. Now it does bother me if it like, if he actually starts twisting people's arm and it's the things that your companies get money for. I go, there's always been this gross. I really hated all the stuff this week that's like, look at all these businesses that are giving to Trump's inauguration. I'm like, oh, yeah. They give to every president.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican. That's just always the case. You guys are just like all of a sudden noticing it because it's going to Trump. But like those people paid for Biden's parties and his inauguration. And it's the same companies. It's not just like a different set of companies. It's like they're trying to make money and they're trying to be pals with the people that regulate them and write the laws that tell them what they can and can't do. This is not hard, but it's a little gross for me, and I'm a little leery of the like, these are the richest people in the world. This isn't like just the Fortune 500 companies. This is like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk that are that have done these. The Zuckerberg stuff is just so egregious that it makes me just go, oh, it's like painful to watch how that transition is so fake.
I loved it. No, I didn't think it was fake at all. Did you listen to him on Joe Rogan?
I haven't. I want to, but I never have 2.5 hours to listen to a podcast.
I do.
But to me, that's been the most egregious one where I go,
please listen.
Right, but I go, why didn't you say this you could have said this 4 years ago.
He talks about that. He talks about that, like.
Right, but to me, it's not brave to do it once you're like.
But like what he was like, and he says he's like, what would have been a good time? Like
the good time would have been during COVID when they were pressuring him to take stuff down that wasn't disinformation. He would have been like, and he did try to fight back. Yeah, no, he could have gone on Joe Rogan's podcast then. He's one of the richest men in the world, and that's my point. Is that it's very clearly like. First of all, Facebook's worried that they're going to, like, Zuckerberg specifically has been so singled out by Trump. I think he was scared of Trump, and I think that he knew he needed to make, and I don't blame him for making that call, because I'm sure I would have done the same thing if I thought, like, this guy's going to come after me. And he's talking about, he was talking about him the same. He was talking about, like, Liz Cheney and stuff. It wasn't just like, oh, these guys are the bad guys. It was like, oh, they're doing stuff that I'm going to put him in jail for. So I get why you make the transition, but it just kind of feels like, okay, you don't have to do it. So I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't love the richest people in the world. The oligarchy claim by Biden is a little bit like, it has some truth to it. Now, I just think it's hypocritical because he doesn't mind his billionaires. He doesn't mind his billionaires propping him up. He just doesn't like these billionaires doing it with Trump. To me, that's my only concern with Doge, is that I don't think they can actually do what they claim they're going to do. I'm all for the mission statement. Like, I think the government is wildly inefficient. Yeah. And I like one of my favorite, is if I like executive orders, it would be everyone's back.
Yeah.
And hiring freeze. Although I think we need to be careful about the hiring stuff with like the federal government number of workers is not increased in like 30 years. To me, some of the problems we have with the government is because we don't have enough employees in those things.
Right.
I think
that will unfreeze hopefully soon.
Well, no, it's been it's not increased.
They'll start hiring.
Yeah, because I actually think there are some agencies that actually need more employees. I think that the answer is not always cut the jobs. Sometimes it is, if you want that agency, if you want the Social Security Administration to not be an hour-and-a-half long wait time, like, you need to hire more people that can answer the phones.
Yeah.
Like, there's some really basic stuff. And some of that is like entry-level stuff. Like, it's not, hiring people for a call center is not the people that are making tax, I don't know, the CDC or something. Like, CDC obviously is a little different. You need, but that's my concern. Or FDA. There's all this Make America Healthy stuff again. Some of that is the FDA needs more resources. Yeah. Some of the reason that people are making the FDA out to be the bad guy, when they go in front of Congress, they're like, why don't you test these things for after you've approved them? They're like, well, we don't have you don't give us the resources to do that. It's not mandatory spending, and you don't give us the staff. Like, we can't do it. We're trying to do the things that you tell us we have to do, and then the stuff that we want to do, we don't have the budget for. So there's some of that stuff that needs to increase, which, I'm not Mr. Increase the federal government. I'm just saying we need to look case by case and go, which agencies. So that is promising to me.
Yeah.
I would love to see a lot of the regulation go away. I just didn't feel like we got enough of that in the first term. But I hope we get more this time.
I think we will.
Yeah, I hope so. Because I think that's a huge barrier for economic stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that will come.
Yeah, and the oil and natural gas stuff I think is good. Although I don't necessarily think you have to not renew wind farm leases either. I think you can do all of it. I don't think you should subsidize one energy source. The other thing that I think would be great, which actually Biden and Congress did, I will give them credit for, is like, we need more nuclear. Like, we've got to have more nuclear energy. It just makes the most sense. And that's oddly enough something that all those tech billionaires are kind of going all in. Apparently they're like buying old nuclear reactors and spinning them up privately for their AI stuff, essentially, because these servers take so much time. So that
really?
I'm like optimistic about that, because Bill Gates and several others are trying to spin up either these defunct or buy these nuclear, because basically the AI stuff is taking just an enormous amount of energy. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to figure out a way to especially people like Bill Gates, they're like, these climate sort of philanthropists. They're trying to figure out a way to do it that isn't doesn't make them look like gigantic hypocrites.
You're right.
And so I am optimistic that I think Trump's term could be, I think that's maybe the best thing he could do, maybe more than all those other things I talked about, is just like really go all in on nuclear. I mean, and not at the expense of oil and gas or things like that. Like you can still do all that stuff. We can't transition immediately. But Biden and Congress did pass a thing that deregulated some of the red tape to like re-get nuclear facilities online, essentially. So that could be a good thing, because I think we have to, not just for, if you really want to be energy independent, you can't, I mean, first of all, that's not a real thing, because we can't, the kind of oil we drill here isn't the kind of oil we need sometimes. So you have to like sell that stuff and buy the stuff from the places. And most of the oil we get is from Canada. So it's not, it's not our enemies. It's not some, it's not OPEC. It's not like, we get most of it from, and I hope that also, same thing, liquid by natural gas, exporting that again, not pausing those terminals. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think that we could, really good things that could happen. My only concern is just, like I said, it didn't seem to happen last time, but I'm hoping that it's like the change is that because the wind's a little bit more at his back, and it's a little bit more like Democrats are a little bit more willing to play ball. Yeah. And it's not like, I mean, you're just not seeing like the resistance right now.
I was going to say, I feel like the first term, like they didn't know what they were doing. He comes in, they accuse him like the Russia stuff. Like there was so much in his way that I think like this time will be different. Yeah,
the Russia stuff was ridiculous. I mean, it was worth looking into for sure. And there was illegal stuff that happened there. I mean, there were people that went to jail, and there were there was. It's not that there was nothing going on there, but like the whole like Steele dossier was ridiculous. It was made up.
Involved with Trump,
and Russia did not swing the election, and like those conspiracy theories were insane, and they did hamper him in some way. But I think the what my concern is that I think he hired great people for the most part in his first term, and didn't manage to get some of that stuff done. And now I think he's hiring lesser people, because I think he's more concerned with loyalty than he is with their qualifications. So I'm like, can they do the basic work? And that I don't know if Pete Hegseth or RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard. Now Marco Rubio,
Marco Rubio's
a great
Pam Bondi,
pick.
I like
Pam Bondi probably is. Although again, do I worry about, like, my only concern with her is, does she do something that she wouldn't otherwise because Trump asked her to? And something illegal, like going after someone for, forging evidence or something like that. Like if because she's in a position where she could do that. Again, I think that she probably doesn't make it very far, because I think that specific job butts up so much into a black and white thing of the law that I think someone's going to say no to him and be like, no. I mean, I mean, it happened in his first term where people were like, that's a war crime. I'm not going to do that because I'm not willing to go down for you. And so it will depend if those people do that or not. I mostly just think they will be, like, I think RFK Jr. has no idea. He can't manage Health and Human Services. He has no experience.
I don't think, that's what I'm saying. I think he'll be the first one out.
Right. But like, that's 25% of the budget. So like, will he learn the lesson and replace him with someone that can do the job? And
I think so. Like with Matt Gaetz, like he replaced with Pam Bondi, which was like
someone that's actually an attorney.
Should have been like his first choice.
Right. But that's what I don't get, because it's weird to me that sometimes Trump seems to be doing this transactional thing. That's the pardon for the Silk Road guy. He told the Libertarian Party they would do it, as if like as if he doesn't go through with that, they're gonna like, what are they gonna do to him?
I know, but Blake, he is so into like loyalty and keeping people close to him that like supported him.
The RFK Jr. thing makes sense. I think he actually owes a little bit to RFK Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, but so you give him a job, although I would say,
I'm same with Matt Gaetz. Like he did that for Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz has been so loyal to him.
Yeah, but either one of them, I would have been like, you can't do that job. I'm giving you.
Blake, he's not going to say that.
Yeah, but I mean, if he would have said RFK at FDA. My point is, like, he put him above all of Health and Human Services. I'd been like, okay, I'm going to let you try this one first, and then you can move up.
I say let RFK try it. Like,
right. I just feel like if you think he might fail and then he does, that's just wasted time, especially if you don't have the political clout.
He doesn't care about that, Blake.
But you might if you don't have the political clout to do the things you want to later. Does that make sense? Like I think that he thinks he's got 4 years to do this stuff, and he might not. He might have 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, and 2 years for sure.
2 years.
Like history proves that most of the time, almost every time, the only reason it didn't happen to Biden is because of Trump. Honestly, like you would have seen bigger Republican advances in 2022 had Trump not backed a bunch of really bad Senate candidates.
But if we had like, if there had been a red wave in 22, Trump might not be president right now.
He wouldn't be. Yeah, I think that's, well, I don't know. I think
it gave the confidence for Biden to run again instead of stepping down.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
And then there would have been like a normal primary.
I think you're right. Although,
I mean, who knows if that person would have beat Trump, but.
Although I wonder how much the criminal stuff with Trump was because to me, that was the thing that solidified the Republican primary. It was because even I was going, this New York case is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't like Trump. I don't think he's qualified. I think that the January 6th stuff and the stolen election stuff is disqualifying, period. I don't think he's qualified to be president still. But I also think that was a sham, like novel, like that was lawfare. Like
for sure.
The New York case was 1,000% lawfare. I will never be convinced otherwise. And I think that most people went, that's it for me. I mean, I think a lot of people just went like, this is so obviously corrupt. And I like it's out and followed, you know, when you follow it with the Russia stuff and you follow, you know, most of the things that Trump, which is also so silly to me because I'm like, he's bad enough. You don't have to exaggerate. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can just tell the truth and people would go, I don't love that. But so I don't think that he has, I think people did the same thing with Trump that they did with Biden in 2020. I think they were just like going, get like next. Like, I think that's what they've done for the last 3 elections. And I think anyone that thinks that this is like, you've got 2 years or 4 years of like the wind at your back, I think I don't think everyone in Congress feels that way. I'm confident that they know that they've got a 1-seat majority right now in Congress.
Yeah.
Which is also insane. I'm sure Mike Johnson's just begging Trump, please don't take any more congressmen.
It's truly.
And only a 3-seat majority in the Senate, which is bigger. It's almost exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it would be about 53, but it could have been like 57, you know, if some other things go right. I mean, because Trump still, that's another thing that didn't happen, doesn't really ever happen, is that the president wins a state and senators lose that state from the same party. But 4 of those swing states, Democrats won in the Senate. I don't think that's a great sign for as far as like what the future holds. I think that it's more likely that in 2 years it swings back to Democrats just because that's what happens almost every midterm after a first-time president is elected. So, but I worry that they even think they have 2 years. And I really think, like I said, I'd be signing stuff day one because, like, you know, he could do I think the tariff thing is the most likely thing that actually sinks it, just because I think he's not going to let that go. And it will be felt so immediately by everyone in America. Because a really good point I saw brought up was when you talk about the unemployment rate, even if it's high, even if it's 10% or something crazy, it's only 10% of the country is unemployed. Like 90% of the country is still employed. But like inflation affected everyone. One of those people.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's even the richest people, they might not notice it or it doesn't hurt them. But I mean, I guarantee they noticed that the combo meal at McDonald's is $15 and wasn't it like $8? Wasn't it $6? You know, I think they know, like even rich people notice that. And they certainly notice it with if they have a company, everything they're buying is more expensive and they're noticing it. And to me, that's the thing that he cannot, you know, if he doesn't have sub 3% inflation for the next year, you know.
Yeah, no, it'll be bad. I agree.
That'd be bad. So I think that's basically where it's at. I think that's the measure of success for Trump is he has to keep inflation low.
Yep.
And I'm also one of those guys that think the president doesn't deserve the credit or the blame for a lot of economic stuff. But if he does the tariffs, he would. And Biden deserves some of the blame for the inflation stuff. Those are like, I think you can hurt it, but I think for the most part, president should get out of the way of the economy. And I think Trump has the right idea on some of that stuff other than tariffs. Like deregulation's great.
Yep.
Lowering taxes, although, you know, you're really just, I think, some of the other tax stuff I don't think is a good idea. I don't think like the no tax on tips
tax
and all
on
that
tips,
stuff.
yeah.
I don't see that happening. I think that's...
No, I don't either. Because that really is kind of a Democrat.
Well, yeah, all the things that he and Kamala agreed on, I don't see really happening, which sounds weird. It sounds weird to say that the things that the Democrat and the Republican
taxing
agreed
on tips is a bad idea. Like I
think it's a bad idea. And so it was, or no taxes on Social Security benefits. Again, like we are like screaming towards a debt crisis. You can't reduce the tax base in the meantime and expect that and also keep spending money. I mean, I know they're trying to say they're going to save money, but the efficiency thing I'm interested in. Maybe more, I mean, I think the debt's a bigger problem, but I am curious how, like, can you make the federal government efficient? I don't know if you can. I think that Elon Musk is used to running companies, and so is Donald Trump. I don't know if that translates to the government.
I hope it does.
I hope it does too.
I hope, or even like if, like, again, it just could be small. Like if it was just like a small thing that American people could see and be like, hey, wow, they did this. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, but I think that again, if it doesn't change something permanently, like I said, if you really made the government, let's just say you could snap your fingers and make them efficient good at their jobs, efficient at their jobs, I think there's basically, I think the California wildfires are oddly enough going to be another catalyst for this, because I think people are just desperately wanting the government to just do the things that you say you're going to do. We give you tax dollars. You say you're going to do these things. You have to do those things. We don't really care about all the other stuff. Like, don't try to make everything equity. Don't try to do just like build the roads, like do the thing. Like when I call the Social Security office, I shouldn't have to wait on hold for an hour and a half. There's like some basic stuff. Like I should get the check in the mail. Like, I think people want that. I think even this could be potentially, I'm interested to see what happens in California over the next couple of years. I am too. I think that's a bigger indicator of where the country goes forward than anything else.
Yeah.
Do they reject the people that aren't doing their job, even if it's for other Democrats? I'm not saying they're going to turn red, but like, do they?
I think they get rid of the mayor.
Like, yeah, and do they get rid of Gavin Newsom?
I don't know. I think he'll survive.
I mean, they've recalled a Democratic governor before, so it's not unheard of.
But I think he will survive.
Yeah, I wonder if they go. I think there's going to be
the mayor doesn't survive. No, I think Gavin survives.
There's no chance she survives.
Yeah.
That's an interesting bet too, because I really don't know. I really think he's in more trouble than I would have ever thought he would be in California. But I don't think he has a chance to like run for president.
No, I think the presidency is out. But
I think that's gone. But I think he might not even survive the governorship. We'll see. I mean, I think that is interesting. I'm watching that for sure. Like, do political opinions change in California? Not necessarily to the right, although I think maybe they will, because I think most people just go, we're throwing these people out, we're trying someone else.
Yeah.
But is it even just someone that goes in and goes, look, I'm not talking about any of this nonsense. I'm going to like actually like solve the problems that you think government needs to solve. I'm going to make sure there's, we're preventing fires. I'm going to make sure they're not disasters. If, because look at Florida. Like that's like, Florida governors know there's going to be hurricanes. They're always right before elections.
Oh,
if you don't do that job, you get fired in Florida. And that's obviously a difference. But I mean, will Californians start treating their government officials like that? I think if that happens in California, maybe we'll start seeing it in the whole country. Because I mean, that's not unheard of that things kind of happen first in California and then go a different way. But
I just haven't seen. I don't know. I think they're lost.
Well, I mean,
like,
but I mean, we say that, except that there's just how many hundreds of thousands of people that just lost their businesses or homes.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of them will move out of California.
The size of Manhattan that burned down. Like it's just like it's so terrible. Like
terrible.
And like those people, when they deal with all that, you're right, they might just move, but they won't all.
No.
So I hope that some of them kind of demand.
But I just don't think they're even I don't think that they're placing the blame on Gavin Newsom.
I don't think it's so much the blame. I think it's that. I think it also depends on how the recovery stuff goes too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's trying to cut the red tape and stuff. But I mean, don't you even think that's a thing where you go, wait a minute. So
why is
this here?
Yeah.
Why is there this?
I don't think they see that.
I think they will though.
I don't know, Blake.
Maybe not. I mean, maybe I'm too optimistic. I know you think I'm the pessimistic guy.
You are.
But I really feel like I'm more of an I think I'm just realistic about Trump. Like I think just look at his behavior in the past and I go, he's not going to, 78-year-old men don't change.
Oh, Blake, I know. I'm scared every day for his presidency.
Yeah. I mean, so I look at it as realistic, but I mean.
But vibes are high right now.
But California, has recalled a governor in the last 20 years. So it's not.
I know, but they've already tried to recall Gavin Newsom. Didn't work.
Yeah, but I mean, that was for like.
Was it the COVID thing? The COVID thing. Yeah, that was horrible. Like, this is worst, but I don't know. I don't see people as outraged.
Maybe you're right. Well, maybe
I see Republicans in red states outraged. I don't see a bunch
maybe you're
of,
right that most of them just moved.
Liberals turning on Gavin Newsom. Like, I've seen liberals turn on the mayor. I have not seen one lib.
But I think what I wonder is, will there be a permission structure now after the national losses in November to basically, like, because there's going to, I mean, the other thing that's really interesting that we've not talked about, but I mean, I think will be the most interesting to watch for the next couple of years is like, what do Democrats do?
Yeah, I know who emerges.
Because looking at like the Jimmy Carter funeral or the inauguration, you're just going like, okay, all these Democrats that are in the side of the camera right now don't like each other.
Yeah.
Like the Obama and Biden camps don't really like each other. Certainly Biden and Kamala don't like each other. Yeah. And it's not just them. It's their entire like little, it's like I mean, I know that Kamala, I think, is mad now at the Obama people because they were trying to run her campaign like Obama's campaign, and it's just not 2008. So what their advice was basically bad, but that's what they knew.
Who do you think like the who emerges as like the leader of like who will?
I don't think we know. I think it literally might be someone that's not on the radar at all. I
can see someone like Josh Shapiro. I can see someone even like Fetterman.
Yes, I could see those kind of people. I don't necessarily think that. I don't think it could be Fetterman, really. I don't see him being like a leader because I don't think he wants to do all the stuff that goes along with the politicking of being like the leader of a party. I think he's content to be the guy that just speaks his mind and tries to do the stuff that he thinks that he should do as a senator.
Yeah.
Josh Shapiro is more interesting because I think he's actually obviously swung it's not like he's a conservative, but like the school choice stuff that he was trying to do in Pennsylvania and some of that stuff. And
he's talented and likable.
And look, after the assassination attempt on Trump, like his thing the next day was wonderful.
Yeah, very impressive.
It was most of it was talking about the firefighter that was killed. And it was so genuine. It was like this guy, and he was like, this guy loved Trump. He was so excited to be there. His fan, and he died protecting his family. It was really good. It was one of the better politician things I've seen. And it was so clearly not about him. It was just because it unfortunately happened in Pennsylvania. But yeah, I mean, he could be someone, but I just wonder, I'm more interested in not so much who the person is. It's like, who's going to win the fight over the progressivism versus the like more centrist Democrat stuff versus like, what is the platform now of the Democrats? Like, I don't know.
I don't either.
How do they get minorities back? How do they get the youth that they lost to Trump? Like,
yeah, no, I don't think they know.
No, I think they were so convinced that the demographic destiny kind of stuff of like, well, as there's more minorities, we're just going to keep winning more and more. I think they just like so took that for granted. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe not. And the youth. We just always have the youth. We're the Democratic Party. We don't even have to do it anymore.
Or even just like the anti-Trump message, like that also like
it didn't work.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It didn't. And I think it's mostly because people didn't believe that they were genuine about it. I think that they don't really, most of them don't really believe it. Because if they really believed it, they would behave differently. And they didn't behave differently. If they really believed it, they would have booted Joe Biden 2 years ago. If they really thought Trump was the threat he was. So I'm curious to see what happens to the Democratic Party because they could be of course, I think the Republican Party has a lot of problems too. Don't like get me wrong. I think that there's like after Trump is gone or if Trump died tomorrow. Like
JD.
Well, but I mean, but JD Vance is not the personality that like people aren't going to just fall in line behind JD Vance.
I think they will.
I don't think they would. I think they would rally behind him, but I don't think he doesn't have the threatening power that Trump does.
I think he'll get there.
I don't think so.
Oh, totally.
I mean, I don't know if JD Vance lasts. I mean, I think he's going to be the vice president, but I don't know that he's even in the good graces of MAGA just based on look at how they turned on him for the January 6th comment stuff.
No, I think he will. I think he survives.
I don't think I don't know. I don't think so.
I think he does. I think that he wants to run.
Yeah, but I don't think. But I think that's too hard of a thing. Like him trying. Like if it ever looks to Trump like he is positioning himself to run in 2028, which I mean, obviously he's going to run in 2028.
Run in 2028.
I know, but if he ever makes it, if it ever looks like he's hedging on that instead of being loyal to Trump, I think it's game over.
I hope that's not the case.
And that's going to be a really hard tightrope to walk, because I think his statement on January 6th was right politically. He knows it's unpopular. He knows it's unpopular to pardon violent criminals, especially, and most people have a very unfavorable view of January 6th. And I think he walked the right line there. He said, we're going to look at it case by case. And obviously the violent offenders wouldn't be. But he got all this blowback from that. And so.
I didn't see that blowback.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I saw like several like of the, I don't know any of their names because I don't know these like far right nuts that but I mean they were like calling for him like, well, he's a traitor, like for not for not backing.
I didn't see that.
And because there were people that basically were saying, how can you be the people that claim that the election was stolen and tell us that it wasn't wrong and then not pardon everyone? Because it's true, you can't hold those two positions. You can't say it was an FBI setup, or you can't say it was the election was. I mean, first of all, their narratives don't make a lot of sense to me because they're not true. But no matter which narrative you pick, if you believe the election was stolen, violence is the right answer, probably. I mean, if I really thought there was if there was a
against a police officer, though.
Look, if let's just say that Biden really stole the election in 2020.
Okay, well, you wouldn't be violent against a police officer
if they were the people standing between me and. I mean, that's like revolutionary stuff. That's like the Revolutionary War. And I'm not a violent person. I'm just saying I think that we have. Like, this country was founded on a rebellion against the government. And if there was evidence that if we had a Maduro situation where they're just like literally, it's not a real election.
I get what you're saying.
Then I think people would be justified in saying, no, we're taking down this government. And then I would say the violence would be.
Yeah, but like they really don't believe it was stolen.
I know, but that's my point. But there are the people that were there did, and so that's the point. Is you can't say that and then not pardon them. So I mean, I get the blowback to JD Vance actually a little bit from the perspective of the people that either thought the election was stolen.
People.
Yeah, from insane people. But that is who they're trying to capitulate to, which I don't know why they do, because I think they're not.
Pam Bondi said the same thing.
Yeah, and it's like to me, that is. I don't know how you fix that, because I think that's his problem. That's the tightrope that he has to walk, is like trying to, because those are not going to be the people that, first of all, if Tucker Carlson runs, those people are going to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but I really hope that.
So he has to keep normal, sane Republicans happy for the next 4 years.
I know.
And I just think that's going to be I think it's going to be a hard job to do, because the second you do anything which is funny, because like Mike Pence, I would say, really wasn't ever. I mean, obviously it's different when you're in the first term with a president, but it's like there was no obvious move that Mike Pence was trying to like be the president, and yet he got crucified for just basically saying at the very end. And so it only takes like one thing like that, I think, because some people are very. It's like. I mean, Trump demands it to some degree, and I don't think he's going to like fire JD Vance.
No,
I don't know if I mean, he could try to force him to resign, but I don't see that happening. But
I don't either. I think JD will last.
I don't think it will be the fireworks that the Musk.
I think Musk will end.
That'll be fireworks for sure,
and I think RFK will end. And I'm sure another one.
I think most of the cabinet. I mean, and most presidents have turnover. Okay, last thing, because we've gone long, but. A really interesting thing I saw was that I never noticed. I mean, I should have noticed. Did you notice like there was no turnover with Biden's administration? Like none. No one got fired. Almost no one resigned.
They changed press secretaries, but that's very normal.
Once.
Yeah, once.
Only once. Right? It was just Jen Psaki and then
Karine Jean-Pierre.
Almost every other one changes press secretaries more often than that, just because I would never take that job.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was like, I never really thought about that. And then you start thinking about why. And it's like, well, yeah, because those are you can't fire those people because they're the people that know you are senile.
Like one of Trump's things that he said is that like Biden never fires anyone.
Right. But I think where he didn't connect the dots was it's because those people have dirt on him. The dirt is that he's too old. And I hadn't really thought about that, but I'm like, yeah, that's why you didn't fire the aides. That's why you didn't fire, like, that protested you. That's why, like, these people will go to the press and say, yeah, he's being handled. Anyway, yeah. I think it's...
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
I hadn't either. And I was like, oh, that's actually pretty fascinating because you can't fire those people because they know, they're the people they're people handling him the whole time. And then, so it's like, even if he does get to
like gone to the press.
Yeah. I mean, because like that's going to happen for sure.
Yeah.
These people are not that loyal to the job. Okay, well, thanks for coming and yapping with me for forever.
Thanks, Blake. You really are a downer.
Well, look, like I said, I'm trying to be realistic about who I think Trump is.
Blake,
as far
just
as...
let us enjoy this honeymoon period, okay? Let us enjoy the honeymoon period.
Okay, I will. Look,
and these banger of executive orders that I love.
Like I said, to be totally clear, I want Trump to succeed. I want him to do actually conservative stuff because I want the country. Because I want the country to do well. And I hope that I can say I was wrong about some stuff.
I hope so too, Blake.
Like, that's fine with me because that means that he did something good. Like, so I'm fine with that. I'm happy to go.
He's doing good things, Blake.
Well, he's doing some good things, but I think he has more potential to do bad things. Probably. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to give it slightly more than if he doesn't do tariffs, I give him max 1 year before he's back to like low 40s approval rating.
Goodness, Blake. Okay.
That doesn't mean he's done. I don't want
to think about that.
That doesn't mean he's done. It just means that, and to be fair,
I don't want that to happen.
And that might even be a good thing. Maybe that means Republicans in Congress can get more done by going like, look, you just have to sign the things that we say you should do.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.